It's important to be able to identify vehicles on the battlefield when you're playing squad. So I'm creating a series of videos that are going to focus on individual factions and what vehicles each faction may utilize so that you can make better callouts, instead of calling everything a BTR. We're going to be starting with Blue 4 factions, and today we're going to be focused on the Australian Defence Force. We're going to take a look at each vehicle, and we're also going to listen to how they sound so you can make solid callouts for your team, along with covering basic capabilities and armaments for each vehicle. So hit the subscribe button so you can get notified of future videos in this series, and be sure to leave a comment down below with thoughts for future videos. One of the first things you need to be aware of is every time you enter a round, you can see what vehicles both your team and the enemy team has. You can find this information by hitting caps lock and going to the vehicle icon in the top right of your map. This will give you a breakdown of all the vehicles available to either team during that round. It'll also tell you the ticket value of each vehicle along with whether or not they're amphibious. Now first we're going to discuss the Australian Defence Force main battle tank, which is the M1A1 Abrams. The US Marine Corps also operates the M1A1, however, the Australian Defence Force version comes with a specific paint job, much like a couple other of their vehicles. The M1A1 sports the 120mm smoothbore gun, along with 21 shells of armor-piercing sabot rounds and 21 shells of high-explosive anti-tank rounds. It also has a 7.62 coax, countermeasures in the form of smoke launcher, and the commander's HMG is actually the M2A1 Browning, which is a common 50 caliber weapon across many Blue 4 vehicles. The Abrams in both the M1A1 and the M1A2 have a turbine engine. It is very distinctive. For most tracked vehicles, you'll be able to hear the tracks from roughly 300 to 500 meters away, whereas the turbine engine of the M1A1 and M1A2 are going to be present within the 300 meter range. Now, much like the engine, the M1A1 and the M1A2 share the same main gun, so take a listen. The Australian faction doesn't actually have any other tracked vehicles, however they do have the ASLAV-25. The ASLAV is going to look relatively similar to the LAV-25, the LAV-6, and the Coyote. In fact, they all sport the same main gun in the M242 Bushmaster, which is a 25mm cannon. The ASLAV holds 70 armor-piercing sabot rounds and 230 high-explosive incendiary rounds. It has a 7.62 machine gun and countermeasures in the form of smoke launchers. Additionally, the ASLAV can actually hold 600 ammo, which can be used for resupplying FOBs or infantry. The standard size crew of an ASLAV is 3 with a driver, gunner, and commander, and it can also hold 7 passengers on board. Much like the LAV-25, the ASLAV is also amphibious, giving it a little bit more mobility and range. Let's take a quick listen to the ASLAV engine so you can hear it when it's coming up on the battlefield. Now let's listen to how the main gun sounds on the ASLAV. The coaxial gun is going to sound very similar to what you heard from the Abrams. Much like the M1A1 for the Australian Defence Force, the ASLAV only comes in one camo pattern specific to this faction. The Australians sport 3 different PMV variants, which is a light attack and recon vehicle. First, you have the PMV MAG-58, which is just an open-top light vehicle with a 7.62 machine gun on top. Then you have the PMV MAG-58x3, which actually has 3 open-top guns mounted in different directions, one towards the front, 2 to the back. Finally, you have the PMV M2 RWS, which has a remote-controlled M1A1 Browning 50 caliber machine gun that has stabilization and about 400 rounds of ammunition. All variations of the Bushmaster PMV can hold up to 10 people and 300 ammo points, which can be used to resupply FOBs or infantry. The MAG-58 versions of these PMVs are ideal for taking down enemy infantry, whereas the RWS 50 caliber is going to be much more effective in dealing with other vehicles. Let's take a listen to how their engine sounds. It is worth noting that if you're looking at the vehicle from the front, the driver is going to be on the left side of the Australian light vehicles. This is helpful to note because while the vehicle is lightly armored for small arms fire, it's going to have difficulty being able to stop 50 caliber rounds from going through the windshield and disabling the crew and the vehicle. Now let's listen to the difference between the 7.62 and the 50 cal options. And just like the ASLAV and the Abrams for the Australian Defence Force, they all sport the same camo pattern. There are no alternates. The Australian Defence Force also comes with the HX-60, which is a general-purpose military vehicle for transportation of infantry or logistics. The HX-60 transport can hold up to 18 people and about 300 ammo points. This vehicle is only for transportation as you cannot set up a FOB or radio. The logistics version of the vehicle can hold up to 3,000 supply points split between ammo and build, along with 12 people. While being able to rearm various FOBs on the battlefield, they can also be utilized to set up new FOBs. It's important to be able to tell the difference between a transportation vehicle and a logistics vehicle, also known as a Logi. Much like any other faction, the logistics vehicle is going to carry ammo boxes and crates in the back behind the cabin. Neither of these vehicles have any sort of weaponry on board and are highly susceptible to small arms fire, as well as pretty much anything you can throw at it. It's important to know where these logistics vehicles are because they can set up HABs and tend to sneak behind enemy lines to do so. Being able to identify their engine sound is really important to being able to track where these vehicles go. Let's take a listen. Much like the PMV, if you're looking at the front of the vehicle, the driver is going to be positioned on the left. Additionally, passengers are often going to be seated in the back of the vehicle, leaving them very open to being hit by enemy fire. Finally, the Australian Defence Force actually sports 2 different helicopters in the UH-60M and the MRH-90. UH-60M is often referred to as the Black Hawk. In addition to the pilot, it can hold 12 passengers along with 1,000 logistic supply points, which can be split between ammo and build. The MHR-90 has a larger capacity for logistic supply, holding up to 1,500 supply points. Both helicopters feature door gunners on either side of the vehicle. It's always critical to be aware of helicopter positioning because they can also set down FOBs using their supply points. Here's an idea of what to listen out for. Now that we've gone through all the vehicles for the Australian Defence Force, it's important to remind you that there's going to be other videos focused on other factions and their respective vehicles. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and drop a comment down below if you have ideas for other videos outside of the series or suggestions for other guides. I'd really appreciate it. Catch you next time.